We're back again with MVB Life Empowerment Sessions, and today on the panel I have Mr.
Prince Boafo.
Prince Boafo. He's a prince indeed. So he's a jack of all trades. This guy is gifted in so many capacities.
Oh,
So I'm just going to be
thank you.
digging into. Yes. Oh my God. Amazing pianist. And today I'm also going to go on another angle as well. But before I ask those other questions, how did you become a pianist?
Oh, that's a good question. Definitely. So, you know, I happened to grow up in the church for a very long time, right? I've lived in a different part of the world for almost half of my life, right? And now I'm in the States for the other half, right? I'm not saying my age, so you can guess. It's up to you. But yeah, so I started really getting into instruments, you know, just a few years before I moved to the state, right? So the goal was to learn the drums, right? But apparently, the guy who was teaching us, all we had to do was just keep doing this. We were not even playing the drums. I don't know why he made us do it, but I guess for our hands to be a little bit flexible or something, right? And then, so after that, that's when we moved to the States, right? So when we came to the States, I mean, I felt the need to really get to know how to play the instrument. There was some form of a gap, right? So my brother played the instruments. At some point, he was going to go to college, right, in a different state, right? So someone has to fill in that gap, right? So I'm like, hey, you know what? I'll just do it. I know nobody likes playing piano, but this is something I'm going to explore, right? So that's when I started picking up. So at the age of, I believe, around 12, 13 years, that's when I started learning how to play the piano. Yeah. And now we're in 2024. Hey, I'm still learning, you know. Instrument is something you never become an expert, and that's it. You have to continuously learn and practice. Yeah.
And I love how you said you have to continuously learn and practice because you're one of those guys that practice every time
Right.
and your craft keeps getting better and better and better. And it's just one of the things that you do, blessing us, especially in our church, and blessing me on this channel, MVB Life Empowerment Sessions. If you see the other videos, he's always representing. He's so gifted. I'll write songs, you can easily hear it. So I want to find out, how does your mind work? Because I'll write a song and nobody has heard it, but for some reason when I just get with you, you're able to just get you're able to get in my head. Should I say?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think this is something everybody wonders too, right? Trust me, before I started knowing how to play the instrument, right? Anytime I listened to music, I always paid attention to the words, right? The music, the instrumental part was more like, you know, background and it sounds good and whatnot. But once you start learning piano, things kind of change. You pay more attention to the instrumental part than the actual, you know, lyrics or words. Yeah. So how my mind works, right? I mean, starting was very hard because it's actually very discouraging when you try to do something and it doesn't come instantly, right? And that's one mistake a lot of people do, right? They give up easily because they struggle or it's difficult, right? But the thing with piano specifically is it takes practice. The more you practice, the better you become. It's more like muscle memory, right? Humans, we work every day without thinking of how we balance ourselves and all that stuff, right? And that's because we've done it for a long time, right? And now it's just part of us. We just do it without thinking about it, right? That's the same thing for piano. The more you play, your fingers naturally knows, oh, which key it's supposed to be at, right? But back to your question, right? So how I do it is in music in general, there are key fundamentals each and everybody has to know, right? When you talk about keyboard, bass guitar, lead guitar, anything that involves keys, right? There's something we all know, right? Progressions, right? That's something we know. There's something called scales. There's so many different kind of scales, major scales, minor scales, right? Pentatonic scales. The list goes on, right? So this sort of stuff you need to be very familiar with and also practice a lot, right? And that's just the that aspect, right? There are people play music in different raw forms. Some people read music, others play by ear. I play by ear. You know, I tried.
Yo, guys.
You know, I tried reading music, but I don't think that's really my field yet. And I'm not saying it's not good to not do it. It's also good, you know, to learn new things, right? And by training by ear, it's just like a baby, right? Once a baby is born, the baby knows nothing. But once, sorry, the baby start getting involved in conversations and stuff, they pick ideas, right? And they start to use it, right? So that's the same way. The more you learn, the more you play, your ears naturally start tuning, right? Or getting retuned to certain things, right? That makes, and then eventually become familiar with those notes. So as much as I'll be doing magic on the keys, right? I'm just doing the most simplest thing, but adding the flavor to it, right? So let's think of it as, maybe that wouldn't work, but let's say, you have a chord progression, right? One, four, five, and then one, right? Very simple. Everybody is doing the same thing. But what makes it unique is because everybody's adding their flavor to it, and that's what makes it stand out. Yeah. So
Love
again,
that.
yeah, to train your ear, it really takes practice. It's over time, and ideally, it's best you start young because once you're young, right, your brain is open to taking a lot of
A lot
things,
of
right,
information.
information, right. So you want to use that moment to really train yourself to pick things up. Yeah.
Sounds great. That is amazing. So, I was like, I'm going to interview you today because your mind is interesting to me. It's yeah, you know, it's so interesting that I went and bought a piano, guys. I got this
You did.
GEX 670 piano in my house, and
Okay.
this piano sounds phenomenal. I sit on it, and it sounds like I'm playing a toy. He comes and he starts playing it, and it sounds like I'm in a grand concert orchestra room somewhere. And I'm just like, wow, there are gifts and then there are gifts. He's
Hey.
just so amazing. And I love how he said consistency is key, practice is key, keep learning, keep learning, keep learning. So this is like from a musical perspective. He plays by ear, not by, reading the notes and everything, but he can play it, on point, on point, on point. It's mind-boggling. So my next question now, we'll go to um, your your life in general, your career, because you said you studied engineering. Is that correct?
Right. Yes. So actually I started in finance. Right.
Okay.
If you like, we can go way back. Growing up, in Ghana, there isn't, I guess, a lot of profession you get exposed to, right, compared to the state. So, seeing all these planes flying and stuff, I'm like, I want to be a pilot someday, right? Then eventually I got to a point in life, right, where my surrounding kind of, influenced my decisions, right? So I lived in auto mechanic shop areas, right? They call it magazine, right? So they fix cars, they have spare parts and all those stuff. And one thing I used to always do is, just go look at these spare parts and pick something and just play around with it or do something with it or figure out what it does, right? For instance, magnets, I'll be playing with magnets just to see
Figure it out.
how it works, right? Same thing for at home. If anything breaks, right, the handy guy, they'll call me, hey, Prince, can you come fix it? And then somehow, some way, I don't even know, right? I fix it and make it work, right? Um, career wise, that kind of influenced me. And then when I moved to the state, right, I think I leaned towards, something that really I'm strong at, right? So at school, I'm very good in math, science related stuff, right? And the career wise, right, engineering is something that I felt like, is the right path because of the strengths that I have. So I gravitated towards that. But during the college process, obviously, there's a whole lot. Tuition, getting accepted to the school you want, the program, and all that stuff, right? But long story short, I ended up being in the school that did not have engineering, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was the school I was able to afford, right? But unfortunately, they didn't have any engineering program, right? So I did something closest to my strong field, which is finance, right? So I did that for a year, and this Fordham University. So hey, Fordham, we rep
Fordham
it.
University.
Yeah. I did that for a year. I was doing amazing, right? But I felt the need to really pursue something that I was passionate about, right? And because of that, I did apply to other schools to see how things go. And God's grace, I got into NYU, right? A year, after 1 year at Fordham University, the next year I went to NYU and then started pursuing mechanical and aerospace engineering. Yeah.
And what is
So,
NYU for people that
oh,
don't know?
hey, NYU, New York University. Yes, that's
You
what it
hopping
stands
from
for.
one university to the
To
other.
another, right? Yep.
Oh, that's
Yep.
wonderful. So in NYU, then you now majored in what is it called exactly?
Mechanical and aerospace engineering. So I did a few internships with DuPont as an investment engineer, right? And then eventually I went to GE Gas Power, so General Electrics. I think most of us are familiar with them making appliances and stuff, right? But they also makes engine for planes, right? Those round engine turbojets and stuff. GE makes them. They also make gas turbines, right, which generates electricity for like, towns and cities and stuff, right? So I worked with the compressor team, right, working on gas turbines. And then eventually, I secured a full-time role job. I happened to get, AT&T, which happened to be a network engineering role, right? And there are reasons why I chose that. I had other jobs too. I, frankly, I could.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. I had a lot. That's what God does. If He wants to bless you, He just gives you a lot, right?
Avalanche of
Yes,
blessings.
yes. So after considering all these roles, I just chose to go with network engineering, and I think it's the best decision that I made. And I definitely enjoy it for sure. Yeah.
I'm glad. A
Hmm.
man of many passions. So just to wrap it up, because we want this to be helpful to other young aspiring people that probably would want to enter the space of engineering, or they probably want to study music. Um, how have you been able to stay productive?
Right.
What are the key components that helped you to succeed and finish? Because people start,
Yeah.
but along the way they just give up, or they stop.
Right, right, right. So that's a good question. Being productive wise, there's a lot of factors to it, right? Personally, I'm from a large family, right? I have siblings. I'm the fourth born, right? So I had people to look up to, and that played a huge role to my success right now, right? And I think having some form of mentor or someone to look up to is something that helps you become productive in a sense, right? Because you aspire to be someone, right? So that pushes you to do your best, right? So again, I wanted to do. My siblings are doing great things by God's grace, right? So I wanted to do something better, right? So I kept pushing myself and kept pushing myself, and here I am, doing mechanical engineering, and this is a field. At least you don't get to see a lot of people, right, in it, right? So I'm hoping this at least can inspire someone out there. If you want to pursue something similar, just know there are people like you who are doing great things. And
People who are doing
frankly,
it.
yeah, yeah, frankly, once you get into the corporate world and stuff, you notice there are actually a lot of people just like you, doing amazing things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I love that. So with us having you here, it's amazing, and thank you for accepting this invitation. It's just to show other young men out there,
Hmm.
especially young black men, that you can build yourself and become somebody great.
Right.
You can work hard, you can be productive, you can enter into these spaces that you're saying, sometimes you're like, oh, how am I going to enter into this field? But now that you are in that space, you see that there's a lot more other young, men, whether black, whether white, whatever your race is, but you see a lot more young people that are in these fields and they are thriving and they are growing. So the point is stay productive and don't give up and keep pressing on. If you're in it and it's hard, just know that at the end of the tunnel, you will see the light and it's going to be amazing. So don't give up, keep pressing on, because the results you will get at the end will justify all the pain, the heartache sometimes, and the stress, because the process is not easy. You will have some sleepless nights.
Yep, the process for sure is not easy, but the end is really,
It's worth it.
yeah, definitely worth it, and that's one thing I would say for sure. Don't let no one deceive you and say, hey, don't do this because it's hard. Everything has to go through a process, and it's gonna be hard and tough, but the end is what matters the most, right? And it's very rewarding afterwards. Yeah.
It is
Hmm.
very rewarding.
Yeah.
So stay productive and keep, getting those goals. Keep accomplishing those visions. The reward is going to be phenomenal and you're going to love it. Thank you
Yes.
again for tuning in. We'll bring more people.
Yeah.
Next time we'll call you in again. We'll get more nuggets from you because we have gleaned a lot from this conversation. Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Boafo.
Thank you for having me. All right.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.